It's been a bad couple of days for scare campaigns. They've effectively been killed off by the very people trying to run them. First, there's Labor's fear-mongering over nuclear energy, with the Climate and Energy Minister Chris Bowen trying to claim it's all going to cost too much. But he's wrong.
The cost that's been put out today by Minister Bowen appears to be about 18 times the cost and almost double what is actually required.
Missed it by just 18 times. I'll have plenty more detail on that in just a moment. And on The Voice, leading No campaigner Warren Mundine has undercut The Voice scare campaigns about treaties and changing the date of Australia Day.
One of the things about this debate, I've always been honest, even though I know people on my side don't agree with me on these two issues, and that's treaties and that's the change in the date.
I'll explain the importance of all that later in the program. Also tonight, I'll show you some of Prince Harry at the Invictus Games, and it actually shows him in a very good light. Terrific panels tonight too, with Katie Wolfe, Christy McSweeney, Gemma Tognini and Caroline De Russo. And I'll have Sophie Ellsworth on media. Is the ABC now saying that you can only show white people committing crimes? Let's get into it. You've heard all the scares about nuclear energy over the years. People have argued it's bad for the environment, bad for humans. They've talked about nuclear disasters and often grossly exaggerated the number of people affected. They've talked about the risks to people and the risks of disposing of waste and the risk of nuclear proliferation of weapons. Now, the reality is that all of these concerns have been more than adequately dealt with. Just ask France, ask the UK, ask Finland, ask Canada, ask any one of more than 30 nations that have nuclear energy, 13 of them producing at least a quarter of their power from uranium. I've shown you the ridiculous protests we've seen in this country before, where uranium mines have been opposed. Labor held out against them illogically for many years. We're now one of the world's largest exporters of uranium, thereby helping other countries produce clean, reliable electricity without greenhouse gas emissions. That's what demonstrates these old protesters belong to another age, really, isn't it? Because if they cared about the environment, they should care about reducing emissions. And that's why so many countries are now expanding their nuclear energy programs. It's a way for them to power their economies and preserve their societies while reducing emissions. But there are plenty of other benefits from nuclear energy. It's a very intense form of energy production. It doesn't take up a lot of space for either generation or waste disposal, whereas renewable energy, in particular, as you know, takes up vast amounts of land and leads to the alienation of huge areas of bush or countryside, both for wind and solar projects and the transmission lines to connect them all. And then there's the gas generators, the pumped hydro or the batteries built to firm up or store renewable energy. The environmental footprint of renewables is exponentially larger than that of nuclear energy. Apart from that, of course, nuclear energy is there whenever you need it. It's reliable and dispatchable, and the plants constructed to provide it last 75 years or more, whereas renewables infrastructure like solar panels and wind turbines, well, that's going to be replaced 3 or 4 times over that timeline. So the case for nuclear is overwhelming. And the Climate and Energy Minister Chris Bowen has pretty much conceded all of that now, because today he made his big swipe at nuclear energy. He tried to sink the coalition's nuclear push by pushing just one claim himself, and one claim alone. Not that it was scary, not that it was unsafe, not that it was bad for the environment, but just that it's too expensive. He's given up on the scare campaign and is now just pushing the economics.
They think the answer is to put the most expensive form of power available into our grid, when we have no nuclear industry, we have no regulations in place. It would cost even more than it's facing in other countries, and around the world it's facing cost blowouts and time blowouts, right around the world. Well, you know, it's time for the Liberals to put up or shut up, answer these concerns, or reveal what their alternative is.
Look, he's just wrong, isn't he? But this is a good development, because rather than kill off nuclear, if we're going to have the cost argument, nuclear will win hands down. If that's the best that Bowen's got, he has lost the debate. You see, Bowen has run up a ridiculous number for replacing all coal-fired energy with small modular reactors, and he says it will cost $387 billion. Now, experts I've been in touch with explain that even if that figure were true, it would represent a bargain because we'll have to spend upwards of $100 billion a year on renewables and transmission and storage, whereas the capital cost of nuclear will keep producing power for more than 75 years with no extra transmission needed. So we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars versus trillions of dollars for renewables, or thousands of billions of dollars. Still, Bowen's estimates are way over the top anyway, because we won't need all the nuclear power he suggests because it's so reliable for starters, but also because some of the gas, hydro, wind and solar capacity will remain in any case. So the cost to consumers of nuclear energy over 10, 20 or 50 years is likely to be only a fraction of the cost of renewables, with the added benefit that it will be reliable and that it won't alienate thousands of hectares of countryside. Now that the nuclear energy debate is only about cost, it must be time to get rid of the legal ban on nuclear energy and let the economics decide.